Welcome back. Philadelphia. So, I don't want to make a generalization because it's terrible, right? But there is a and it's a portion of every fan base, right? That will say, hey, here's another Philadelphia goalie who's going to be run out of town or something along those lines, right? Or, the guy sucks. And I've seen this, right? People comparing Carter Hart to other young goaltenders, and the guy sucks. He's no good, he sucks. Can't play. The guy sucks. So I wanted to do a video on this, and I don't want to just do a video where we talk about stats. So I want to talk about this from the point of view of developing a goaltender, and this is why you don't put a goaltender into the league immediately. Apparently, it was a bone of contention with Ron Hextall before he was let go as a general manager that he didn't want to put Carter Hart in right away. And then it worked. He goes in 2018, 2019, played 31 games, 16-13-1 record, 917 save percentage. Looks really good right out of the gate. Above average save percentage for a team that desperately needed stability in goal. Philadelphia hasn't really had stability in goal since they were these back in the 90s. And it has been so long since we saw a Philadelphia goaltending situation where you knew from one year to the next exactly what you were going to get. So Carter Hart, who was a number 48 pick in 2016, was right away seen as he's going to be the guy that's going to give them this stability. And of course, there will be doubters, and there are, and there's going to be. Now, 2019-2020, 43 games, 24-13-3 record, 914 save percentage. He played well last season. And in the return to play, I didn't think there was anything wrong with his game either. They took out Montreal, and then they lost to the New York Islanders, and I didn't see Carter Hart as the reason that they didn't go any further. So the expectation this year was high, right? His save percentage, 917 to 914. This year hasn't worked out. And of course, this is coming off of last night. They lose 9-0 against New York Rangers. I thought this is a good time to have this discussion. He's 7-6-3 this year with an 880 save percentage. By comparison, on his own team, Elliott is 35 years of age, and that's worthy of note. 892 save percentage. So here's Carter Hart, still young. By goaltending standards, 22 is so young. It is very young to be a goaltender that's being seen as a starter. It is unusual. And yet, in the East, there seems to be a youth movement going on. So I've got some examples here of Elias Samsonov's 23, Mackenzie Blackwood's 24, Georgiev with the Rangers, he's 24, Vanacek, back with the Capitals, 24, Shesterkin's 25, Sorokin's 25, and Jari's 25. So in the East, there's a lot of young goaltenders. But what's interesting is this. So you've got Hart, who's 22 years of age, Blackwood's 24. Devils fans have been piling on. Blackwood's better since the start. And I find that strange because Blackwood's also older. And yet when I talk about Kaprizov being a great rookie, people go, hey, but he's older than the other rookies. Well, then why don't we have the same standard with goaltenders? Why can't we say Carter Hart's younger? Now, the thing is, because he came into the league earlier than I think even most pundits would have expected, now his entry-level contract is up this summer. And while the Flyers aren't in cap hell or anything like that, it's going to be interesting to see what Chuck Fletcher thinks he's worth. How much do you pay for Carter Hart? Do you pay for what you think he's going to do? Do you pay him at a rate where you're saying this guy's going to be a star goalie? Do you give him a longer contract? Is it a bridge contract? I would say in the current flat cap situation, it's probably a 2-year deal. But for how much? And then is Thatcher Demko watching somewhere and saying, however much Carter Hart gets, I may deserve more because I've been better this year for Vancouver than Hart's been for Philadelphia? Or does the argument become, but Hart's a lot younger and he's got a higher upside? So I wanted to also look at players who have played the most games in the National Hockey League this year and their age. And how many games they'd played at age 22. And this is not an exact science. This is just, an approximation, all right? Using numbers from Quant Hockey. So there you go. Grubauer is one of 3 who's played 23 games this year. He's 29 years of age. At the age of 22, he had played 17 games in the NHL. Again, Hart's played 92, 47-32-7 record with a 908 save percentage. Grubauer, at his age, had played 17 games. Connor Hellebuck, starting goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets. He was, seen as a starting goaltender at 22, at least the one to come, he had played 26 games at that point in his career. Gibson, who's also played 23 games this year for the Anaheim Ducks, at age 22, he had already played 66 games, which is one of the highest numbers on the board. And Gibson, there was a lot of pressure out of the gate. And here's where the conversation gets interesting too, because Gibson's play this year in Anaheim hasn't been Gibson-like. It hasn't been at that level. And then the question you have to ask is, so did Gibson peak early, or what are we looking at here? So that's the question I have when it comes to Gibson is, like did he come up too soon? Can we look at him having played in his early 20s so much and see that as maybe having hurt him in the long term? Again, no idea with Gibson. I think he bounces back, but it's an interesting question we can ask with Carter Hart too. Does it hurt him in the long term having come up sooner? So with 22 games played in the NHL so far this year, and again, I didn't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but Fleury's played 21 games, and he's 36 years of age. Fleury, when he first came into the league, his first 2 seasons were underwhelming, and there were plenty of discussions at that point about, did Pittsburgh ruin him by bringing him up into this situation? So the question marks about when to play a goaltender are always there. Vasilevsky's played 22 games. He's 26 years of age. At age 22, he had played 90 games. So that's the highest on the board. It's still lower than Hart, and the season's not over yet for Carter Hart. And Vasilevsky, first-round draft pick, everybody knew he was going to be the goaltender in Tampa. He had Bishop to shield him. The one thing that Carter Hart hasn't really had in Philly is a clear starter ahead of him, so he hasn't had to worry about playing too much. So I appreciate what Elliott did last season, but again, Hart was the starter. And I think that's the difference here. Thatcher Demko at age 22 had played 1 game in the National Hockey League. And it took a while for him to develop for the Vancouver Canucks, but now that he has, it looks brilliant to have waited as long as Vancouver did with Demko. Again, Demko, he had Markstrom shielding him and making sure he didn't play too much. Freddie Anderson at age 22 hadn't played in the NHL yet. And he's played 22 games this season. And of course, we can have the debate about how good or how bad Freddie Anderson is some other time, but at age 22 he hadn't played yet. Jonas Korpisalo at age 22 had played 45 games. And Matt Murray, at age 22, had played 62 games, in part due to injuries with Marc-Andre Fleury, and he'd also won 2 Stanley Cups. So it was an unexpected turn for Matt Murray. Nobody expected a whole lot out of him. And then the pressure went up. Matt Murray's numbers have gone down. But Matt Murray was not projected to be the kind of goaltender that we all expected Carter Hart to be. So it is going to be interesting to see what they get. Or what he gets in his next contract from Philadelphia. His entry-level contract runs out. Does he end up making $6 million next year? Do the Flyers open up the vault and say, this is our goalie? And then does that put more pressure on him? Or do they go with the bridge contract? Again, my bet's on the bridge contract. I would say $4.5 million should be good. Something along the same lines as what Binnington got for his current contract before he signed that long-term extension, where he got 2 years at $4.4 million a year. I think that'd be fair. And I understand people would see that as probably an overpayment on some level based on this year's numbers. But I think you're looking at the general trend, and that Carter Hart, you have to have that belief in him, right? Or has that changed for people? And again, his numbers are down this year. People will say, well, it's also the defense in front of him. And based on last night, the fact that Myers and Sanheim were on the ice for the first 5 goals against, scored by the New York Rangers, there's likely some blame to go around. But we'll see how long it takes before Philadelphia faithful decide, yeah, but Hart's probably not good enough. And how that evolves from here. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And I guess one question I have too is, with such a youth movement in the East, and notice I don't have Boston's young goaltenders on there because Rask and Halak, right? Although Vladar, for purpose of this video, he is 23 years of age as well. So Vladar is in the younger side of this group here if the Bruins at some point decide to go with him. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. regarding which one of these you think is going to be the big star and which one you think is probably not going to be in the league in a few years, because odds are not all of them are going to hit. But hey, let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And yeah, going to be an interesting summer for the Philadelphia Flyers either way. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.